Little warm-up exercise. Hello. Hello, my name is Thomas. I'm a GIS professor and I would like to help you. Hey!
Good morning.
Fun time is over.
I'm not able to log in yet.
Yeah?
So slow.
That short, there's a technical issue. Let's switch actually here. Maybe I draw your attention now when you have the projectors on. Little technical issues are hopefully solved. Mine are working, so I'm actually connected to the internet. Alright guys, I'm running 8-hour class today. I will not fight that noise level in the classroom. I try to give you time to change, exchange, and explore. It's actually literally in the lesson plan today. I will not be able to run 2 class sessions full power against this noise level. I can't talk for a day after I'm done teaching. Last Sunday I didn't say peep. So please, the louder it is in here, the less learning experience I can guarantee for you. And it's all about educate, entertain, and inspire. And I can't entertain and go beyond that into inspire, aka make you learn mind-blowing things when it's too loud. Sorry. Hi. Start over. How are you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm fine. Everyone is logged in on their computers. Everyone has that success already, okay? Well, the next step, since we had technical issues and we made up a quick training exercise, let's go through the training exercise step by step. A, to see if you did it right, and B, if you're not there yet, to have a complete little exercise on could be a regular day-to-day operation, as in your boss comes in and say, hey, you're the GIS geek, find me that company in my town with the address and show me something about them. Hey, where's that property? You remember that old fat manufacturing site? We just figured out we could use it. Where's that property? I need those reports in 10 minutes. Yeah? The catch with this whole GIS thing in the real world, you never have the time you really want. That's the reason why I call that the Scotty phenomenon. Yeah? Captain, the hull is broken, the warp core is damaged, and all the shields are not working. I need 4 days to repair it. Scotty, I give you 2 hours. Captain, I do it in 20 minutes. Yeah? So you need to know how good you are and how well paced you can be on GIS workflow. Some problems take 5 minutes. Most of the time they take 5. Some take 5 months. But that's when you're just a crazy geek and trying to deal with research. Yeah? So if someone comes in and says, hey, I have this address, can you look that up? And you're doing these drive time things for me. Can you give me, let's say, the market potentials or the consumer reports for that area? Or simply a community profile. How many people live in these areas? Yeah? So yes, it sounds like the assignment we did, but it's completely made up in a real world scenario. So how are we going to do this? Well, first of all, what was the location? Was a place, a name, a building, a name of a company. So there are different ways to do that. Well, type in styles. Styles. Here, Styles Corporation Headquarters, and it pops up. Huh? And I just click here on copy the address. Actually, it changed, Google Maps changed. I literally left click on it and it copies the address. Copy to clipboard. Then, when I'm on my ArcGIS.com, I can do this easily. I said Business Analyst. Business Analyst is one of the applications we have. I can go here to Apps and go to Business Analyst. Or I type in bao.arcgis.com. Both will work. Yeah. Go up to, let's say, Maps. Let's start a new project. Call it Styles. I need to change my visibility on this one here. Call it just simply styles. It will take a moment. This is where you start humming elevator music. Or switch to AC/DC, one or the other. Alright. And I open this. And remember, I did copy the address. The address is still copied. Right click on it, say paste here in the address finder, and hit enter. Yes, got that? Now, I could name the site, which I will do. Styles HQ. Come on. Styles HQ. Hit enter, so it takes it. And then I say add rings, drive time or walk time. I won't have to switch to drive time. And we said 3 minutes, 15 minutes, and 30 minutes. Alright? We disregard all the fun stuff down there with a way through and even use traffic. You could even model that for 9 a.m. on a Thursday morning. For the purpose of the training exercise, we disregard this. Okay? And hit apply. All up. So now if I investigate this, you can see the 3 minutes is really, really short. Why is that the 3 minutes is so small in that area by coverage?
Intersections are your bottlenecks. There's a lot of
Intersections, and it's like 25 speed limit. Yeah, so it's right downtown. We didn't compute traffic, but based on the speed limits on these road networks there, it's really small. But then with a little bit more time, you connect to faster traffic corridors. Like, according to this, you're in the Everglades in 30 minutes. Try that at 4 or 5 p.m. in the afternoon. Yeah?
No way.
No way. Alright, fine. For the next moment of the training exercise here, we can click on reports. If we have customized reports, they would show up here under my reports. Or if I want to go with a standard, we set community profile as an example. I can click on community profile, and for my site here, the PDF or the Excel spreadsheet is computed. I would just do PDF and run the report. The Excel spreadsheet is awesome when you guys want to deal with these tables in other classes or reports. AKA, hey, real estate market analysis. I have to write a report, a community profile. Hey, I can pull these numbers, put them in Excel, reformat the table, make it look nice, and then push it into a Word document or whatever you guys use. Alright, I open my report. This is done. And I see Styles headquarters with the address we found by Googling them. We could have gone to their homepage and found it there. Yeah. And then the standard report we have seen so many times. Alright, everyone is with me on that one? Everyone had a success story early in the morning? Alright, to give you an idea, you trained on this, and with all the talk I've done and all the step-by-step, this took less than 10 minutes. The complicated part is to figure out your workflow and make sure that you do those 10 mouse clicks and that you pick the right report and or even create a report with customized variables for requests like that. So remember, it doesn't take you anymore 2 or 3 hours to find these buttons and switch from radius to drive time. It's an experience between 5 and 10 minutes, and you all did successfully great. Alright? Today is all about the idea how I deal with time in these processes. Learning and then repeating with time. Okay? Good. Before we do that, let's do some damage as in lectures. Boring stuff, totally boring stuff. Alright. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my typical lecture thing. I'm getting videotaped like from 5 different angles. There's some theory we need to cover. I want you to listen to this. I want you to remember this. I will not ask you high-tech technical questions about map projections. There are books thicker than your textbook just covering map projection algebra and all the crazy mathematics behind that. That's not what we're doing here. Purpose of this short presentation is that you understand if you're running into map projection problems, you need to know where to find the stuff and need to see, okay, I have a problem here because my Earth looks a little bit different, my United States looks a little bit different, or for some reason all this shows in feet rather than in meters or in decimal degrees. Yeah? Before the midterm, we are not going to do physical changes in map projections. This is like changing your engine in a car. It's a nasty thing if you don't do it the right way. Okay? So, but let's do a little bit of theory so you actually understand if I look at these numbers in decimal degrees, where they're actually coming from. Everyone understands lat long? Well, this is where it's coming from. Map projections. Did I bring the tools? Goodies? Oh, yeah. This is the first time in years that I'm using them. Here, take a piece of earth. Look at the slinky. This is an American thing.
A slinky?
Can you give me an option? So, 3 different ways to project the world. 3 different ways to play with the world. Rubber balls, squares, dice, and the slinky. The slinky, that's all conference stuff you get for fun. But it's a really, really cool part because it's the way to present the curved surface on the of the Earth on the map. Last example is just make this with your hand, curve your hand, and say, I need map projections to take the proper look. Yeah? And depending on how I look and how close I am to my hand, I might not see everything. Yeah? It goes so far that when I actually go into, let's do this. When I look at my Earth, and for demonstration purposes, Earth is here displayed as a beautiful round-shaped sphere. Technically, it's not round completely, but I don't want to get in trouble with statements like this anymore. Had that years ago. Yeah. The features are projected on 3 developable surfaces. So it's not just one. I can pick 3 different ones. Yeah. And the way I touch with that surface or plane, my Earth, I will have a different imprint on the map. You ever played with potato stencils? Back in as kids, take a potato, cut out like a stamp, and then with watercolors you paint it. Depending on how much pressure you put in the angles, you will have that experience as well. It's great fun, and you still can eat the potatoes after that. Yeah. But then again, since I teach insight planning, different cultures, felt value, different cultures and identities on places, we grew up all differently. So fun. All right, that aside, map projections. Projection of the curved surface of the Earth on different geometric bodies. Okay? You can look at it a little different way. This is the beautiful, colorful way. This is the old textbook style. Yeah? And saying, okay, fine, the way you cut this and the way you slice it, you can see here at the bottom that, let's do video screening. So here at the bottom, how does this actually look like when you look close up. So if you are in the library, that we are, and you would go and ask, hey, do you have maps or atlas? Yeah? Remember those old hardcover books with funny looking maps in it? It's really cool stuff. Keep them. If you find them on a second-hand place or thrift store, keep them. They are witnesses of time. Yeah? But what the meaning is, the one in the middle, that's the way you might have seen only in action movies on a radar screen. Yeah? But that's the way you map in old school mapping North Pole and South Pole. Because, look, literally, it sits here on top of the North Pole. And you fold it around it, and if you fold it around it the proper way, this is how you can display earth and water on there. Think about that. Would you be able to display the North Pole in this kind of grid? Probably not. Welcome to the third session or fourth session in cartography class, where you draw by hand from this grid to this grid. And the proportions of land, the proportions of distances will stretch. This is almost like, think about this if that would be a rubber band, a piece of rubber, literally like one of those gymnastics bands you get, yeah? And you squeeze it and pull it. And the moment you pull it, you transform and reproject your Earth. Okay? How does this look like in more examples? Conical projection, we know that. We have seen that. Most of the stuff you see in mapping is there. Most of it is based on somewhat on the Mercator projection. Cylindrical projection, parallels, meridians are right angles. We're using coordinate systems in right angles in math, in class. Geometry. It's usually done in a right angle Cartesian network. All right. We have equivalent projection, meaning, let's say, Albers equal area, means shape and scale are not preserved, but distortion is minimal. Distortion is minimal. I end this lecture with the saying of geographers are said, SADD, shape, area, distortion, and direction. That's the important part you need to remember after all this. The fun joke about it makes projection makes geographers sad. SAAD. SADD. Yeah? Because that's how you remember. You might not remember which projection is making what. But you remember, if I switch my projection, I'm moving from a football team into a baseball team and the explicit stadiums to it. And in the ideal case, you will have a football team in a football stadium and a baseball team in a baseball stadium. But we know there are cases they are not the same. That we actually alter the football or the baseball stadium. What is it usually? The baseball stadium goes? The baseball stadium is altered for the football team. Yeah? The other way around. See, this is how much I follow the sports. Yeah? I'll keep that in mind. Makes projections make you sad. Okay, then we have other elements. I'll run through this just for the awareness purpose. Yeah? So meridians curve gently, avoiding the extremes. Doesn't preserve, but looks right. Yeah? And this one is a Western world view, where you typically put Europe and Africa into the center. I can draw this like I would spin a globe, and I can flip how I want that. If I would, let's say, put the US, North and South America in the middle, it will look different. And you are not used to that. This is a common display of this projection. You're looking at this, yeah, I've seen that. So keep in mind with projections, you gotta recognize what's the content beyond just the display. Alright, then there's a cool thing where you can go to the gslounge.com and you can basically say, you know what, I can do a standard mapping process and then warp it literally warp it in your face and say, this is an area of interest. This is what you need to look for right now. Don't care about the rest. Yeah? Put that in. Those is technically not really projections, but you can see how there's a grid used to show you how this whole depth, in-depth and close-up is warped. Alright, coordinates. Gotta work with that probably next week. Yes, please.
The last map you just showed, that's, didn't it just plug in data that, because it talks about acute respiratory failure, so data skewed the map, right?
It's data driven, yeah.
Yeah, it's data, so
Yeah, it's data driven. You can manage that. So this is a different way of visualization. You also could change that in terms of map design. You can keep that completely 2D, no visual 3D effect, yeah, and have like 5 or 10 different categories. So based on the coloring codes and symbology here, right now here I also have like accessibility only. You could make that in a different way. Yeah. So again, what's the purpose of this message? Is the map the right way to do that? And then is the mapping style and the presentation of the map also the right way? So you're going into the next level of how can I do that? This looks more dramatic than it would be on this one. This is like, yeah, continental US. This one here, the next one is like, wow, we have a sense of emergency here. Yeah? There's a different underlying theme you present. All right, coordinates. Well, if we have the sphere, and we can say a circle is 360 degrees, yeah, we also can say half a circle is what? 180. A right angle is 90 degrees, yeah? So in this case, I could go down to the center of the Earth, have a 90-degree angle out, and then I can follow in these degrees levels here and can place myself depending on specific locations. Yeah? So we're not really anchored. I'll say, to do that, you gotta make a common sense agreement, a consensus agreement, and say there's certain points in the world we do agree upon for base reference. Huh? One of those points is this one, Greenwich, and then the equator. So here, this point down here is 0, 0. It's actually beautiful. It's in the middle of the ocean. Huh? But there is an understanding for worldwide mapping in these coordinates, longitude and latitude patterns, that you have a 0, 0 at some place on Earth. How do you do that? The prime meridian goes through Greenwich, and it hits the equator to set this up here. Okay, that's your set reference. If you look at sea level, they usually take the Amsterdam average sea level. If I'm not mistaken, we still do Amsterdam sea level. If you look at maps in Europe, there's something they call datum, like almost like a datum, where they say this is based on. Swiss guys actually do a Bordeaux French city datum. They reference basically a specific point in the real world is going to be my base reference point for everything else I want to do. It's like you go to this university, you're going to be sharks for life. Huh? You reference this university as your alma mater. Huh? Alma mater is the nursing mom, translated from Latin. Yeah? So this is home base. We might switch homes sometime, but for most of you in your current stage of life, home base is your parents' house. Even if your parents will move, that's home is where the family is. Yeah? That all said, for geographic coordinate systems in lat long, home base is 0, 0. with the proper dissection of these areas and sectors in the world. Huh? Latitudes, the parallels. Again, 0 is the equator. So if you're really, really cool in your travels, you will be able to take pictures here in North America, South America, or maybe in Africa. Or they draw a line or just have a big colorful stone and say, hey, your left foot right now is on the southern hemisphere of the Earth. The pictures amaze me. The travel is not so amazing there. But yeah, gotta figure it out. Or you could be here in Indonesia and Asia. That means, and you can see there's switches between those different projections, so you can actually associate where you're at. Yeah? So that means if you put that now into the grid pattern, that you can define where in the world, this is the 0 point, where in the world in reference to 0 are you going to be? That is like the XY system in your geometry class. Remember those 4 quadrants? I need some American please to nod, not just Daniel in the back. All right. I never had high school mathematics in the US, so I'm sorry. But the system is the same way. You're going to have a 0 reference and you have the relationships there. That could mean that if you're in the proper projection, you could actually measure the distance between this one and this one just using high school geometry. In theory. If you would be able to measure that with the coordinate system like that. All right. In theory. Because you're in decimal degrees, it's not that easy. However, you can use these numbers to reference yourself in the world. If you drive with your GPS-enabled smartphone, that smartphone is using the same technology. Finds your location on your map, knows where you want to drive. Those are 2 points, and then it figures out what kind of streets and terrain is in between. Same principle. Cruise missiles, a little bit more high-tech, same principle. They might know a little bit more where they at right now rather than saying big parking lot. Same principle. That's the reason why you don't say that you're doing GIS when you walk into immigrations. Fun fact, happened to me once. Distances. Distances. What? No, we're not going to video record that story. No, it's classified.
You got flat.
Graduate students working on campus always say, yes, please.
Flip back to one for just a second. Got it.
What? Alright. So you can measure those distances, you can run this. Depending where on Earth you are, you can actually run this and say 1 decimal degree equals a specific amount of distance. Yeah. You can see that we have this division here by 360 because we have 360 degrees around the whole thing. Yeah. And you can write estimates and you basically say, in a standard case, we would look at almost 29,000 miles for the equator, assuming we have a perfectly shaped sphere and all these rules apply. Yeah. Well, then we have this. That's a little bit old school, but depending on your projection, and this is, I don't want you to remember which projection is here. I want you to remember that there are projections that will alter the distance by multiple miles in that concept. 3,124 versus 2,455 when you have the actual real distance is 2451. So Mercator is probably not the best way to draw and measure the distances between LA and New York. Just keep that in mind. On your neighborhood level, let's be blunt. Does it matter if it's 105 feet or 105.2 feet? Unless you do survey level data, probably not, because that's like almost you wiggling on the screen when you try to digitize the right line. Yeah? If this would be logistics, and now you're actually looking at like something like 700 miles in gasoline that you bought too much, or trying to not, actually you will buy too much gasoline, you have a problem. You do that once. Buying too much gasoline for your trucking fleet might be a better thing than buying not enough. Yeah? But you get the picture. Oh, the picture here. The way you present and project, you will have a different outcome. Yeah, it's just 700 miles. All right. Lastly, sad distortions make geography sad. When I saw that slide in my grad school time, I'm like, what the? Yeah, shape, area, distance, and direction. Yeah, with little pictograms. What does this mean and how they change? Yeah. We are not going to get into trouble in this class with this. This is more advanced stuff, but you will see little simple things. If you do preview of data, preview of data means you swap from one view to the other view. You will see that shape and area changes. Wondering why your state of Florida data looks so weird? Well, maybe it's in the wrong projection. Might be beneficial to figure out what's the local GIS department or the county using as projections, so you know which playground you are in. Yes, please.
Why isn't it in just one projection?
You can. It's too much earth curvature of the earth for the context of your map. Depending where you're at at the relative position of you on Earth, you have more or less curvature. And depending on what you want to present, you have the problem that you have to put that into 2D reference. Again, the basics of the reference is you're on Earth. So if you're at the North Pole, referencing around the North Pole on a 0-0 system will be different than if you are down at the equator, because your relative location to your base reference is different. That's the reason why, let's say for Arctic states mapping, like Iceland, Greenland, Russia, Alaska, because you want to show them how they are sitting there as neighbors and relatively in positioning. See how I'm doing this? I say relatively in positioning because I don't want to get in trouble here with shape, area, and distance. Yeah? But relatively in positioning, you will have to choose that specific type of projection. Oh yeah. Think about that. If you take like that disk we had earlier in the PowerPoint, that disk, and put it on top of the North Pole, if you would take that and put it on New York City, that's completely screwed. Because you're dealing with a different view on representation on your content. The amount of decimal degrees you can present in one or the other is different. Like in terms of region. If you want to look at more complex mathematics. All right. Let's talk about something we grew up with. Let's talk about something we kind of understand. Yeah? So the whole idea is we don't want to nail that down into concepts we understand, models. Yeah? So this is our 0-0. Yeah? So if this would be that long, or we just learned we don't have that longs and that numbers and that height, because we accept that until 90s. Yeah? But it's in feet and meters, meaning I can now measure things with simple mathematics. I can calculate that distance of that green line just knowing these numbers. Anyone wants to do that? Anyone is awake enough? What is it?
B minus square root of, or something minus 4ac.
Close. It would be actually Pythagoras, and it would be what? C. C equals the square root of the a square plus b square, but you need to figure out what is a square and b square first. So you have to subtract those. Do I have those in there? No, I actually took that out.
Not the distance for
So you can draw it down, pen it down on your notes, and you have to calculate that. So if you look at that as a 400 and 300, so 4 and 300. So you have to calculate this, the y differences, and the x differences to get that triangle, and then you take the square root of the sum. All right? Small homework. Daniel is like, yeah, that's like engineering school, day one, done. All right. Why do we have so many coordinate systems, Nathan? Because you have different ideas in your project works. You have different areas you need to present. And you are at a certain point in time where you say, I need to do this for certain purposes. Let's say land surveying, I want to be really accurate in my distances, and I want to be really accurate in my area calculations. Why would that be necessary to be accurate in your area calculations and measurements of where you're at exactly?
You're setting a precedent
Setting a precedent as such as?
to be compared to for future down the road.
No.
Setting estimates for costs.
Setting estimates for costs. This is a real estate development GIS class.
You don't want to be in somebody else's property.
I don't want to be in someone else's property. What is property?
Entitled paperwork.
No. What is property in terms of a geographic information system?
It's a point.
I can reference that as a point. It's a specific documented site or defined by lot lines that I can measure, written down in a legal description. We can see if you look at the deed. That property, or sometimes referred as parcel, the sum of parcels turns into subdivisions. Subdivisions turn into neighborhoods or blocks. Turns into areas of a city. Turns into a city. So if you talk about property and land, this is how you divide and conquer your land and your right to lands. So it might be interesting to have a system that everyone agrees upon and does not dispute necessarily what's going on. So if you want to go in and say, hey, I found a gold digging claim somewhere in the mountains of Idaho, they will ask you, did you pick the claim? Yeah, I did. Where is it? And you need to give legal description. Show it on a map. Give more descriptions. That's old school. Wonder if you walk in and say, these are the GPS coordinates of my property lines I put up as a claim. That's the other way. And then we will say, well, it's GPS coordinates. Is that accurate enough? And you will say, well, in the mountains of Idaho, it's accurate enough. It's not accurate enough if you want to deal with property line violations and millions of dollars involved in, let's say, build buildings on top of it already. All right. So, to make this happening, state plane coordinates have been established, meaning each state has at least one state plane coordinate system. There are 125 zones in the whole US. I don't know if you can see this totally, the little tiny lines here, but on my screen, Florida looks like 3 different zones. East Coast, West Coast, and then the Gulf. Cool part is Texas. They have 7. If I remember right, 7 or 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Little state of Delaware, if I remember right, has 2. So, depending where you're at, and the agreement is different by legal description and by location on Earth. Location on Earth in Texas makes sense because of a long stretch north-south. Idaho has 3 different zones because of the roughly said on the location where they're at. Remember, down here at far down here is the equator. So they're really up north. Depending where they're at, they will change this. But not every state has the same thing.
So how do they line up on the borders?
Confirming. That's how they line up. But again, you need to know which projection you're in. And then again, the purpose for the study you're doing. Are you still with me on this? Pretty much I open up Pandora's box and tell you there are 5 different Pandora's boxes, 125 Pandora boxes in the big box. Now you open up 1 or 2 of those little Pandora boxes to realize that there's more mess in there. Alright? It's not easy, but it's doable. Alright. Each zone has a projection. Yeah? Therefore, you need to know which zone you're in, what type of projection you're going to use. Yes, please.
One question on that. If you have a site where it overlaps both of those boundaries,
Probably not going to happen.
probably not going to, okay. They probably specifically would have gone around parcels.
Probably not. Probably because it's at some point a decision between counties, states and counties. It's probably more the case that at the county line, if you cross the property line and you're in the other county, if the other county is using a different projection, you will probably have that projection. But again, this is also a discussion of the scale. If you are at the neighborhood level, and display, let's say for zoning, rezoning application, you make a map and say, here's my property, here are the surrounding properties. This is my visual support for my zoning application in front of PNC, Planning and Zoning Commission. Nobody cares what kind of projection that is. Don't want to say it out loud, but there is, if you are like so close to the tree that you can't even see the forest or anymore the top of the tree, there are only very limited ways to figure out what type of tree that is. And if your nose is touching the bark of the tree, it's really hard to figure out what kind of fir tree that is.
The reason it comes up is because there's a condo in Daytona Beach that's right on a tax boundary, and they pay.
That's different. Tax boundary is a administrative boundary. It's not a projection. Again, these are not boundaries. These projections are the way you put the 3D curved world on a 2D map. This is about visual representation and then the proper attributes of that representation. Shape, area, distance, and direction. It's not, oh, this is my tax boundary. Oh, this is one water district or my utility district. No. If you look at, let's say, tax records, it doesn't matter in which projection that tax record is. It matters the measurement of your site. It matters if it's 1 acre or 1.1 acres, because that's the base of your taxes. But projections is the representation of the map transformation based on world to local representation. Not a special district, like a tax district. Alright. Then in ArcGIS Pro, short screenshot here, we actually have options that we can set coordinate systems for our new maps. At this moment, we're dealing with default. You gotta have enough animal to tackle in terms of how to write that animal, aka ArcGIS, rather than fine-tune it. We are not concerned about the fine-tuning right now. This is about how to get along and get around with that type of software. I want you to be able to navigate in that software to understand what type of tools are available for my workflow, rather than, oh, it's displaying it in the wrong projection. And then get frustrated with the changes you want to apply for it. Right now it's jump into the cold water and swim. We will adjust the water temperature step by step. For a 5-minute swim, you still can swim in a cold water pool. I will help you with the blue fingers and the blue toes. Alright. Same thing, jumping over there, screenshots, gave you that, UTM. Let's skip that. Skip that too, had that too, done. Two last important things. Again, remember, don't remember this was projection type 1 and projection type 2. No, depending on your projection, the real world distance between LA and New York appears to be false or close to the original. That's what this slide is about. Yeah? Depending on what you want in terms of appearance or in measurements. Yeah? Same thing here. Map distortion, super important. Or makes geographers sad. Shape, area, distance, and direction. Alright? You will look at the Earth in a completely different way. Everyone had a fun time with those little projection gimmicks I brought along. Everyone had. Here we go. That's kind of helps with the frustration if you just start squeezing them. Alright. If there are no crazy questions about this, yeah.
So really, most of the problem is you're looking at everything in 2D. Is that correct? I mean, you heard you say that, but I was.
Yeah, but even in 3D, you're looking at different options. That's how are we going to build on 3D? Your system, the human brain or the human perception of space. How are we able to see 3D? How are we able to do depth perception?
Eyes, yeah.
With 2 eyes.
I like eyes.
Why are we using 2 eyes for that?
Because with one eye,
Who plays golf?
I play golf.
Who has a rangefinder?
I'm very fond of
Alright, why do you have a rangefinder?
So you can pretend like you don't
Finish eating, why do you have a rangefinder?
Get the distance. Where you're-
Alright, what's the concept of a rangefinder?
It uses a single point laser.
Oh, we are talking about the old school rangefinders. We're not talking about the military rangefinder with a laser beam.
Oh, what's the-
Oh,
Alright.
what's the old-
Old school one. Okay, this is how your eyes work. Alright. I am not a medical I'm not a trained medical professional, but in theory, this goes down to the concept of triangulation. You remember triangulation? Alright, triangulation. Yeah. Can you see down here?
Yes.
Everyone can see down here? Alright. So if I have an object here, let's do an x. X and a square. I have an object here and I'm down here. How would I know what's the distance to the object? Or relative distance to the object? Well, can you see that? No, can you see me?
dot,
Alright,
dot.
you got it? Alright, let's do this. Let's do this a little bit more complicated. Let's say you have really wide, faraway eyes. No, not just beautiful ones, but wide out. Okay, do this. Alright, if I'm here, look at the distance with the old pirate spyglass. I have one laser beam, one eye only. I can see the direction to my point. Alright? What if I have another pirate standing here? Yeah? Another pirate looks with a spyglass, and says, hey, I see them here too. What did I just draw? Alright, what do I try to explain?
It's a triangulation.
Triangulation. Alright, so if Mr. B and Mrs. A and Mr. B know each other how far apart they are, not divorced but in feet, and say they are 200 feet away, Mr. B says,
Well, compared to you, actually here, compared to you, this is the 200 feet. I have a 90-degree direction here to go for my spy class. And Mrs. A says, well, I'm away from you guys. Huh? This is not 90 degrees. This is like a 35 degrees angle to hit that spot. So now in theory, you could start calculating the distance here or here. In theory. So your eyes are doing the same thing. You have one googly eye, you have one other googly eye with some dark eye shades. Yeah? You're looking at one point here, your eyes are going this way, and they know exactly which angles are there, and then actually cross over the closer they get. Your eyes do not necessarily measure 10 inches, 2 feet. That's part of your perception training. That's the reason why if you look at kids and they try to reach something, they're always away. If you start playing certain sports with balls, volleyball versus football, different perception how this whole thing acts in the air and how you catch it. Because when you start playing football, not the soccer thing, football, and you try to catch it, you're always like this. Cool thing, if you go diving, you dive in a different medium, not air anymore, you are in water. Water has different physical characteristics. So therefore, your fish is always bigger than it really is. Always like 50,000 feet bigger. And it always appears a little bit closer. That's the reason when you go diving, first thing is if you're actually in the water and you have a line, you need to learn that if you reach out like this, you will not reach it. It has to be closer, and then you grab it. Also, if you have current and you have students like, and they're gone. That aside, diving is fun for those guys who are new to South Florida. I really, really encourage you guys, find some time to get certified. Minimum is open water certification to go diving here in Florida. This is how you survive if you don't like just sandy beaches. Alana's like, no, don't like that. Don't think about it.
Don't worry about sharks.
It's fine, even if there's a shark around. It's fun. It's really fun.
I tried it already. It's gonna get caught.
Huh?
It's really fun until something happens. Huh?
What? Diving?
Just poke in the eye.
No, that's just animals. They're territorial. They bite a little bit. Not just kidding. Okay, so you guys understand the idea of triangulation. Same thing works with your cell phone tower. You're here. You have a tower here. You have a tower here. You have a tower here. Your cell phone company knows exactly where you're at. And depending on your criminal status, the FBI is tracking that too. Real life example based on GIS. Best positioning between cell phone towers. Well, turns out that you could do actually hexagons. Because hexagons have 0 overlaps, loss in coverage. Really cool. We are doing this, I think, in market analysis. We're talking about hierarchy systems. Different cities, different hierarchy systems, don't we? Yeah? You can build this actually on hexagons too, if you want to deal with that. Would be perfect for voting districts. But that's a theory I cannot promote too much. I think the second time now in this class. But again, if I have a reference point I know and some distance or angle to it, I can find that spot. Since we had diving common, this is part of navigation. If you come up on the surface you get trained to figure out what are fixed reference points you have on the shoreline, so you can actually estimate your location to come back. As in, this is that tower with the orange roofing, somewhere in Oakland Boulevard. You go out and say, I don't care how far out I'm going. This is the person, this is the building with the red roof. I'm just following that direction, 90 degrees out, going straight east, on my compass, looking at the building. At some point of time in that line, I will have a needed bearing to the other reference point. This is A. Could be the lighthouse up in Lighthouse Point, Jupiter, in the far, far away. Lighthouse is as tall as the little pen I have in my hand. But at that moment, you know exactly, okay, if I drop now 45 feet, I know exactly where the treasure is. Or my lobsters. Depending on your lifestyle. Alright? Sorry to hear about your ears. It's a really great experience. You guys should check that out. Diving, and we have an awesome dive team. Full disclosure, I'm biased because I help to teach there too. So help, don't teach, just help. It's a wonderful thing. For someone who can't relax on sandy beaches, but at 40 feet with tons of yellow fish, I don't know the name of the fish, but they're awesome. You take a breath, you glide into a cloud of fish, and you are in heaven's world. This is the best way. Well, maybe you get disturbed a little bit with a black-tipped reef shark, but that's okay. They are usually more scared of you, and they usually know that you're around because you blow bubbles. They don't. All right. Geocoding. So last session we did one thing, and everyone's like, so why do I need digitizing? Well, not all the data you want to use is in your computer system. Not everything is available on the web. Not everything is available at the local planning and zoning department or the county administration. So one thing I can do is, if I know exactly the location, let's say, of Styles headquarters, like we did in the beginning of the session today, I would not need to type in the address. I would just zoom to the map and say, this building is exactly the Styles headquarters. I don't need to type in the address to find campus and the top of this building, because I have enough local knowledge on the ground about this relative position here. Do I care that I pinpoint in digitizing the left corner, right corner, or the north or south corner of the building? Probably not, depending on my conventions. However, I want to make sure that if I want to find that building, that the legal description or the geocoding description is proper. So geocoding, in short, is putting your data back on a map in reference to the real world knowledge. If my only address I know from this university is it's in Florida, it can be anywhere in Florida. Does this make sense? If I say it's in Davie, Florida, we have more description. It's actually next slide. We have more description. If I say it's in that specific zip code in Davie, Florida, I get more grain, more detail. And I end up in 3301 College Avenue. And the only reason why I keep remembering that address is because of geocoding. Then the next description would be main library. If your computer system does not know about the main library in that array of buildings that we call campus, it will show you just that official address on the street. Because it's not smart, it only reflects the references to the real world. It's only as smart as someone built it to be. So if you read through the geocoding chapter, You just saw a few examples where it says build a geolocator. That's some scary stuff. A, because you've never seen it before. B, you don't really know about it and the theories behind it. And C, in today's world, you should not build your own unless you have really specific goals. Accuracy, 100% hits might be a reason. Or performance might be a reason. Or money. I tried to geocode 2 million data points. Kind of ran out of my online credits with that. Because I wasn't smart. Turns out it's 35,000 single locations with multiple data entries, like different reporting entities. Same address reports 20 different tax returns. Well, extract the address, geocode the address, and put back the data system. Smart thinking. I just had 50,000 data points just to waste on an old account. So take the exercise. All right, geocoding. Besides digitizing, one of the main powerful tools. Think smart about your workflow. Translate plain English into GIS workflow. That is your power within this class and after this class. Oh, it's not just a funny looking map. I could, we actually have the data, to present an example and say, okay, fine, we have geocoded a bunch of addresses, we have this specific area. How many addresses fall into that specific area? Draw a square on the map and say, and that's my area of interest, how many of my addresses in 10,000s of Excel tables will fall into that? How would you do that? Well, you need GIS for that because you relate different map layers, like onion layers of the real world, and you can drill down and through left and right. Today is the day where you learn how to think spatially. So digitizing is a powerful tool. Pinpoint a point location to draw a line for a path or boundaries around a specific area, let's say with a polygon. An area of interest. Easily done. Geocoding examples. Well, you're in real estate development. What's the most known list you are using on a regular basis for your data? MLS. What's the one thing you're not allowed to do with MLS?
Put your phone number on the listings.
That's too detailed. Download it and use it as a mailing piece. Something like that. Like export it into an Excel file and use it for other purposes.
A law, that's against the law, that's what you're saying.
Well, also like some rules with private companies. You can't download business analyst data, the address lists. So if you do the exercise and find all the McDonald's, well, if one McDonald's is at 100 Main Street, if you download the data into Excel, it will say Main Street. It will lose the 100 house number and other features if needed. Well, if you're looking for American Express headquarters or American Express, it doesn't really matter what's the street address because you will be able to find that one single location. But if you want to have, let's say, 1,000 different companies in a specific service industry and you want to use that as a mailing, you can't. You find the time to find these 1,000 people again. That's a data agreements, data handling, contractual agreements, how you handle data. That's the reason why you usually have copyrights and maps printed. All right, geocoding. Use a computer program calling a geocoding engine. That's a little black box that tells you, feed me with this, this, and this, and I will spit out a point on the map. Typically, feed me with a single field. That means all your address information needs to be in one single field, or give me multiple fields as in house number, street prefix, zip code, state, region in the world, all that. So you gotta figure out a few things, old school wise, how to manipulate data in Excel, and then just have Excel do its thing. All right, examples. We can do these other things. Survey of visitors of an arts event. Hospital patient data could be done. MLS data could be done. I do an annual project where I map out all our college students on their registered address. Sorry, internationals, I'm only doing continental US in that exercise. So I get a map with thousands of little points with the major attached to it, so I can actually see where is our taxation program coming, where's our RED program coming from. Again, downfall on that, if I try to do the example here, it's the registered address. If Angelo is still registered in Georgia? Arkansas.
Pretty close to Georgia.
Where was Georgia? Someone was Georgia. Yeah. Because you did Atlanta as your exercise in the web map. So if you're doing Georgia or Arkansas, if you're still registered there, you would pop up as a student living in Arkansas. So based on the nature of your research question, the purpose of your project, you might need to consider that. I put that in my disclaimer and say, these are students listed on their registered address. If he fails to change the address in the computer system of the university, not a big problem here because you get a flat rate in tuition. If you would be a public university where they have in-state and out-of-state tuition, everyone would have a Florida address. With the first day of school, you would have a Florida address because you pay double on other rates. So keep that in mind if you deal with addresses. What else could I use? Customers. I have customers here. All my customers I had. All the successful homes I did in my past as a real estate sales agent. Oh, my portfolio. Where in the world did I do all my warehouse deals, all my commercial offices? In case of Woody, where are all the locations Habitat for Broward County did? Yeah, it's in Broward County, but where in Broward County? All the addresses of the last 30 or 40 years as you guys exist in an Excel spreadsheet because you guys have files on them, but you don't have a map. And just put that on by locations, and you see maybe there are certain pockets where you guys actually support community. On that note, you guys need to talk to him about volunteer opportunities. There are a few Saturdays in December you don't have class. I'm more than happy to come out and lift building blocks and other stuff with you. Done that, it's a lot of fun. It's team building for the students. Next opportunity is in summer, when it's like July, the classes are done. Difference between December and summer work for Habitat, I would say about 40 degrees Fahrenheit. 30. So, difference. It's fun. You don't have to be a trained carpenter. If you are, they will might keep you there. Again, see how I do this? GIS is about people. Habitat, example, address list, put them on a map. Now you have a destination to go there and find out. All right. So, how are those tables look like, or how do they look like? Could be like this: single address field, house number, street, the name of the place, a zip code, and other stuff. I'm talking geocoding. Don't care about your sales volume. I don't care about the type of restaurant what you are. In geocoding, I'm only care about one thing only. How successful am I with getting this type of addressing into the system to create that point on the map? And the better the system is to create that point on the map, the better I can do my analysis on it. Again, without doing anything, just visualize and conceptualize this. There is a significant difference between having somewhere a point or location in the middle of Davie. For those who do not know Davie, let's say Whole Foods. When you're at university, everyone has seen that building probably before. Versus this building. It's like what, 2 miles difference? Just because I was not accurate enough in the description or my address. If I don't know, oh, it's a Whole Foods building, it's just daily, it could be more than that. It could be somewhere out at the golf course and beyond. Huh? So keep that in mind. And we have seen these address tables all the time. Every listing is some reference you've seen. Huh? That means I need a geocoding reference layer. And this is a little bit more the theory behind that, if you would do that on yourself, by yourself on your computer system. It's fun to do that. It takes time, and for the purpose of our training here, we have online capacity. I'm not going to sit down for an hour or 2 or 5, actually 5 days, like for my Texas work, and build this whole thing and load it in my hand and write code for it. For the purpose of this class, we have an online subscription to a geocoder, to a geocoding engine. We just use that one.
What languages are most commonly used for GIS?
C++. All that stuff. This is not mapping anymore. This is high-tech software. The software is usually written in core language. But you will have fun today because we're doing SQL, or at least the visual version of SQL. All right, but you understand here, reference layers, meaning I don't know, if I don't know anything, if I don't know where are zip codes located, I cannot find them for my address. I will not be able to find 33314 university zip code if my GIS system knows, oh, this is the university zip code. It's sitting right next to the left and to the right and bottom on the top to the other codes. Somewhere you have to have that kind of reference system. You have to replicate local knowledge into your computer. That means I can skip a bunch of these and say, here, in this example here, that highlighted zip code, I need to know that this is the zip code here and not down there. Huh? Where is it? That's the overview. Process of creating geometric representation for locations such as points. That's usually what we do. For descriptions of locations such as street addresses. And this is the whole story. I need a good address and I need a good geocoder to make that match. And there's ways to benchmark those matches. I need my address, I plug it in, and the better I am is because of prior knowledge about the real world. So if you create all the addresses in this world here, and you use the same world language, 100 North Main Street, and plugged it in as address, 100 North Main Street will make that perfect hit. Why? Because you're presenting what exists in the real world with the knowledge, 100% knowledge. So you don't always have 100% knowledge. And your geocoder might end up not having 100% knowledge. And because you didn't do it the right way, you don't type 100 North Main, you only type 100 Main Street. Now your geocoder is looking at this and says, hey, I have 100 North Main and I have 100 South Main. Thomas, which Main Street do you need? That's what would be the result, what we call a tight candidate. Comes back as 80% or 80-point rating as a score. And you're like, okay, is it North or is it South Main? Makes a difference. If Main Street, the direction north and south, is cutting, let's say, a tax district, like Max asked earlier, and you're putting an address of a $1 million building into the wrong street block, it's just 200 feet apart. But if Main Street at that address setup, 0 Main Street, cuts your tax districts to the left and to the right, You might want to know what you're doing. So the question then is, are you going to void that address, or are you going to go back and rematch and do some research maybe on other ideas? As in, oh, this is the county administration building. Well, the county administration building, or Styles headquarters, is listed as this address. And you correct that address. So the better you know about this address, this gets help. The better you know about this gets help. That's a problem you have to be aware of. Serious problem. In my case, current research project, the 34,000 data addresses, I have like 600 addresses that are tight or are not really located. If I want to do a study with text districts, I have a problem. Because I don't know exactly where is that point right now. In which text district, and can I use that? And then the scientific version is, what's the judgment call on it? Because you can mess up easily. Alright, that all said, let's talk about how to mess up. I promise you guys, in the midterm, we're doing a small geocoding exercise. We're doing this today, and I'm giving you a practice test during this week, just to give you the idea of pacing and practicing. As in, hey, I get 10 minutes, I get this task for 10 minutes. Let's do this, and start going through this, and do this 10 times if needed. If you're not happy, if I needed like 8 minutes, can do this in 5, tick. I pace myself to be very, very slow in this class. If you come to office hours in my computer, in my office, we're pulling out other software, it's like click. Because you know exactly where you need to go. So, where you need to go is you get an understanding on that the address components in the United States are house number, street name, street type, directions as suffix and prefix. Then you get into the fun stuff, apartments, units, and suites. Like how do you geocode a shopping center? Well, 100 North Main Street, Suite 100. 100 North Main Street, Suite 200. Same address, different locations in the building. Good luck with that. It's usually everything is on one point. 10 suites are on one point. Unit numbers is also cool. Who lives in a condo tower or apartment tower? Condominiums is different from an apartment. Why? Rental apartment. Ownership and standard addressing means each condominium unit gets its legal address because it has a legal deed, literally, somewhere in the county or in the city. You have legal documents that state this is the address, this is the unit, this is the type of the unit in this building. That's geocoding here. That's an address component. Yeah.
So, say it was apartment, like you're talking about the condos, because they're tall, right, the towers.
Yep.
Say it was apartment number, with, 712 or whatever. So,
7th floor, 12th unit, yeah.
Is there a column?
Welcome to the power of 3D. Do I need to have 3D visualization if that's 7th floor or 12th floor? That's just gimmicks, gadgets. But why is that point address for that specific point address for that condo so important? Texas. Your 7th floor north-facing condominium has a different price than the 13th floor or 12th floor ocean view. It's higher, different view, same building, $200,000 difference, minimum. Different tax, is it? Yeah. So multiple issues with that. In terms of the geek and geocoding, you would actually have a building on your map. You have one representation as the address point for the building, and then you have a map layer in your system that says condos, and you would have condo address points all over the place. That's how you put that. So in the physical and the real world, all these condo points are inside that building. Just if I want to count how many condos do you have in that building footprint.
Does it slice it per story?
No, it's just by point.
Okay.
This is how you replicate your world.
Top down.
Yeah? But again, if you look at this, I just did 3 layers for you. I did the building footprint. I did the building point. This is one layer. This is one layer. And then I did all the other points as the next one. So Penny, how you look, you slice and dice. Looking from the top, looking from the side. Building footprint, next level, could be also down, but it's another slice. This is my representation of 100 Main Street, and this is a representation of all the condo units at that location. Huh? We're way too technical right now. Let's have more fun. Let's understand this visually. That example is 125 Oak Street. There are 2 ways we have to differentiate between addresses. Linear addresses along the street, and point address, top of the building. Address point address. There are differences. Along the street is somewhere along University Drive. Top of the building, business school. Boom. Yeah? The way this works is referencing it along that street segment. So in that database, the computer will know this is Oak Street, the yellow part, and that segment here in red is between 100 and 199. And I will find a location of 125 relatively along that segment. So if you are in rural countryside and you Google certain addresses, Google got better in the past years, really better. But if you Google certain addresses, they're off by a few miles. Why? Because the this is a 10-mile road. What if all the homes are just here around 100? 125 just is here at the plot, but then house number 199 is 10 miles up the street. And you get that stretch. Is that clear? Linear street address is along the street, relative in that segment. That's the reason why if you Google addresses, they're sometimes just on the street. They're not on top of the building. If you Google an address, let's say in a shopping center, and if it's a not known place, known by the computer, it will find like the entrance of the area. Those who had the field trip with me to Harry Posen's new development in Pembroke Pines, WhatsApp lit up, emails lit up. Oh, by the way, GPS is giving you the wrong direction. You are not at the high school. You don't have to be at the high school. You have to be at the other place. Make a U-turn here and there. Yeah? Because the address was so new that the system did not know exactly where to find it. Alright, so what if you want to do that as a point, if you want to know that exactly where it is, huh? Then you need to have some reference layers in the back of your system that knows exactly where each point is located. So it has literally from 101 to 199 each point, and right now 125 lights up because this is our point we want to know. So if you find a data layer, let's say Broward County, gs.broward.org, big list of data. If you find addresses, you will find a fairly new version of all recorded addresses existing in Broward County. And there are multiple hundred thousands. Because every little point of address is supposed to be in this. In case you want to build your own geocoder. Or you just ask Google. Google did all that work for you. Or ArcGIS Online. Alright, different locator styles. For our purposes right now, the problem we are facing is one address field or multiple entries. I'll skip that. So, example here from the textbook. Food sources geocoded to street. You can see here this linear way. That does not mean that they are just sitting in the middle of the street. They're to the left and to the right. But the way the system plugged them in is along streets. If I want to use something we might want to explore today, what we call a spatial join. These are my businesses along the street. This example are neighborhoods. Now I have all the addresses in the street, like push pins, fall down. And some of them will stick inside that field of interest, and some are not. So if I ask you, hey, how do I count all these guys in that neighborhood? I can use a technique we call spatial join. I have all the points being joined into a polygon. It's addicting. Transformations and map projections. I love it. It's like she's doing anger management, like pacing here with a baseball. It's not as hard as a baseball if you throw that at me. So I hit once a student at her head by accident. Here's the world to play with. Hit her by accident on her head. Not a pleasant excitement for her. She was not angry with me. She was just really, really surprised about it. Don't trip. My class is challenging, but not life-threatening. Spatial join we will use later as a spatial tool. Yeah? We'll have a few slides on that. Problems and solutions. I know, this is boring theory. If you keep in mind, I need good addresses and I need a good geocoding engine, the world is going to be happy. Our biggest problem is having good addresses. A typo, a missing direction is a problem. How many Wilmingtons do you know? As cities, how many Wilmingtons do you know? There's a Wilmington, Ohio, a Wilmington, Delaware. Everyone should know that if you have a credit card. We heard recently Wilmington with the hurricane. So there are at least 3 Wilmingtons we have been aware of. Hey, what if I have 100 Main Street Wilmington and forget my state? I have right now already localized 3 different locations that could hit 100 Main Street, if 100 Main Street does exist. Fun fact. Google and try to geocode your own address. And start with all these segments and components. You realize, hey, do you have a unique address or not? My old place has a unique address. That address, just by the name, number, and street, not even city and state, doesn't exist anywhere else in the US. So what? Sold the house, still a great geocoding example. Yeah? Alright, possible problems. Sawmill Run Boulevard. Could be Sawmill Run. Could be Sawmill Run. Could be Sawmill Run. Or could be Saw and Mill Run. Fox Run. Do you know if Fox Run is a prefix for run? Has Boulevard, Avenue, Terrace, Blaze, Court. Most terrifying geocoding work is here in Florida. Just south of campus is 72nd Terrace, Place, whatever. There are 3 or 4 different street types. Yeah? By category, by label, right next to each other. I live in a place where they even went one craziness further. The same house number is in the same subdivision twice. It only changes between court and street. And it is a U-turn, a U-shaped corner of the subdivision. So my Amazon shipping says street, and then in parentheses, not court, not CT or court. Sorry, bad experiences. Work the other way around. The gentleman who lives at court, not street, had his replacement tire for his trailer. We're talking tire, as in car tire, with the wheel, the whole wheel. Shit. So I come home after class on Saturday afternoon and have a tire for a boat trailer sitting at my front door. And no idea what happened. Yeah? I picked up a few things at that person's house. We are not very friendly, but we accept each other. Like you knock the door, it's like, what do you want? And I'm like, there's a coding issue here with addresses. Super simple, it's in your own personal life in the neighborhood. How you spell this, how you write that. Boulevard, if you leave that, it's Sawmill Run, not Boulevard anymore. Yeah? Place names. White House, what's the address of White House?
Something, Pennsylvania.
1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Yeah? So are you going to write a letter to the White House as in White House or 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue? Yeah? You need to know and hope that the postal carrier will understand that this is the place. So if you send an email, if you send a letter to Tom's house, it's not going to work, huh? Depends where you're at, you know, if you're well known in the community.
When you send your check to the IRS, you just put IRS Atlantic.
Really?
Usually, yeah. That's the
But you know-
that's the oddity. A lot involved.
But you know, yes, please.
I was gonna say, speaking of Atlanta, they say it is a joke that half the streets in Atlanta are named Peachtree. There's 71 streets in Atlanta with a variant of Peachtree. 71.
Good luck with that.
You have to just recognize it based on looking at it.
Yeah, but again, good luck with that if you're not knowing this local knowledge and you're trying to figure out what's going on. So the example I have in my story right now about my work in my geocoding work for Texas, I have folks that didn't write suite, here, Route 51 suite. They spelled it wrong, and they had no space in between. So it picks it up as a street name and completely goes bogs and actually ends up with just a point on the map for the city, not within the city anywhere else. And this is painful work. And to avoid the pain, that's the reason why there are a bunch of slides about possible problems. PO boxes. Don't even think about it. If someone gives you a mailing address list and say, hey, can you put that on the map for me? You take a look at PO boxes and say, the only way you can get PO boxes is if the geocoding engine is smart enough to pick up the zip code and puts it into the zip code area. If you want to know, let's say, voter registration, and you want to deal with house addresses of your voters, zip code for the local post office doesn't work. Different levels of aggregation. You just have to say, give me a better address, or don't even use it. Yeah? Missing street data, huge problem. How to clean up things? There's a table we call alias. In theory, I haven't tested it on the new version. Theory, you just did a place name recognition for the address. What's the address of Nova Southeastern University? You're running an alias table. If you ask your 6-year-old, hey, what's the address where you live? Oh, I don't know. maybe the 3-year-old. I don't know. Our house is yellow and the grass is green. Yeah? They will find the house. If you walk by with them, they know the house. But they won't be able to tell you 100 Main Street. Yeah? Just think about that. When is the time you remember your cell phone number? To be honest, do you all know your cell phone number? No, it's in my phone. No? I don't know Woody's phone number. I go Woody, click, dial. I can't remember that. So there's a different change with the alias tables here. I learned something new. I did not know it's 350 Fifth Avenue. Empire State Building. You ask me New York, hey, Empire State Building. This way. They're not giving you the street address. This way. But this morning, a wonderful geocoding experience. Some couple in the car at the roundabout was asking Max, where's the Terry Building? I'm going to make this up, but it's actually a fun story. His first response was, oh, I don't know. Second response, hey, Dr. Würzer, do you know where the Terry Building is? I'm like, I don't know. Why? No personal experience with the building yet. Well, I was there, but I can't remember where it is. Huh? So the real world knowledge of our reference was 0. He turns around and says, bye, walks by a map. I'm like, hey, take a look at the map. Find the Terry Building. So you're back in this, there's a request for an address, and you're the geocode engine, and you're requiring new local knowledge. Look at the map, learn where the Terry Building is, find yourself on the map, and then we turned around and told that couple, hey, by the way, you're here, and this is the best way you can go. We actually gave them 2 ways to get there. But based on their local knowledge, we gave them the longer way, but easier. Just this way, and this way. Terry Building is right close to the west main entrance, close to the HPD cluster. Yeah? And now everyone's nodding. HPD cluster, main entrance. Maybe have seen that, maybe been there.
Someone asked me about it.
Maybe, see, so we had 2 geocoding requests for the Terry Building today. This is geocoding. It's not 100 Main Street in an Excel spreadsheet. A simple way of, you know how to get to the harbor? Or, hey, you know how to get to Las Olas? Let's say YOLO for our networking event. You know where YOLO is? You don't need to know what it is. You just need to reference it as a address and how to get there on time. That's geocoding. You might do that in your head, or you might use a smartphone. Different ways to do that. All right. Prepare a log file.
I'm just going to say this is really interesting. I can Google Terry Building NSU and it gives me the right address on the map. And they were looking for it for 40 minutes.
They said they're driving around for 20 minutes, half an hour, yeah. But we didn't check if they have the technology in place. So, so prepare a log file. This becomes interesting if you're really, really, really into that. Yeah. Missing zip codes, different spelling, could be actually small man street, yeah. Tiger street missing. Tiger is a digital system from the Census Bureau. This is enough. Don't need to know more for the purpose of this class. Yeah. So Tiger is pretty much the reference is missing. Yes.
You're gonna post this somewhere.
I can post some. And then here, Lib Avenue as an example. It could be lib or library as incorrect spells. All right. Let's do a 4-minute break. Well, it just changed. It just changed to 57. So 10:01. Stretch your legs.
Oh my god, okay, wait.
See, that's good. That's good.
only case that it's
Where do you buy it at?
I'll buy it. We can't make it in 3 minutes. You cannot get coffee. You're not even gonna get there.
so my Apple Watch has been disconnected nothing yet. Not 4G. He knows what I mean by that. He means I'm about to upgrade, and you're gonna have to pay for the cell phone bill because you want to have a cell phone match, which is an extra $10 a month. Yeah, it's the same for number of your phone, but there's a chip in here. Yeah. Phone calls, text messages, and you can leave your phone. Say if I forgot my phone at my place today. All phone calls. Well, I mean, have you been separated from us? You just separated.
Full-time student, and then I'm working part-time.
At the end of this, I'll be like, okay, cool, I'm at the beach. You know what? I'm gonna go dive.
Dry cleaning.
Yeah, you should dive in. This is not BFP, right? The new one.
You need to do that. I have to kind of, she helps me a lot, obviously, too, but I help her. Do you work full-time? No.
You're gonna get the XR probably, but like XR is so different.
So do you want to work in the States after your degree? Yeah. Nice.
There's not yet. No. I'm thinking about for another
Because of my background, is that
Yeah, it's on my grad.
okay, I'm not familiar with the field of it.
Want to watch?
Are you in second?
It's just I like getting on the
That's a big one, isn't it? Yeah. It's, I haven't read many, but I've heard of that one. It's a good sound.
This one is like
Any resorts of note, any like notable resorts? The audio? Yeah. Yes.
You said it, not me, you know?
Oh,
Yeah, so I was like, I know a lot.
Yeah, that's why. Really lose something. Yeah. Anyway, where were you before? 5 years.
So what do you think? Trying to do all the reading that our classes.
South Carolina? My grandfather, my mom's from there, so I used to travel there. Every 10 hours in the car.
Every day.
South Carolina,
I'm
100% right. So this last week was I'm allocating this week. I'm taking 3 classes and all classes. So Monday, all one class. Tuesday, all one class. I allocated 2.5 hours from 5 to 7:30. That's enough. For one class, one day, reading every day. And is this like actual hours or credit hours? So
I would recommend it.
It's continuous season on Apple.
Yeah.
for each class.
I just got the name. I got my 8-inch roll.
Yeah, just got a better experience. You have been out of learning.
It's been 5 years.
Yeah, you got to learn it again. I had 50 and higher, 25 years out of school. I literally said the first 6 weeks I had to learn how to learn again.
Yeah.
Alright, speaking of learn again, welcome to the 7.5 minute break. Alright, so GeoFile databases. I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to swamp you with theory right now. After the geocoding theory, everyone's like, hey, great, let's do this. Well, where are you going to geocode into? Well, you're going to geocode a feature layer into a geodatabase. Where did we struggle last week? File location, folders, connecting to a folder. This is very detailed again in the book. You don't have to do that specific exercise, but just read it and find the place on the map, on the tool if needed. That's the more you grow with that software, you will read a section and you just say, yeah, I got this. I know exactly what these guys are talking about. I know exactly what my professor is talking about. Yeah? All right, file geodatabases. I and computer science guys should say a file geodatabase is like a bucket. It has actually a symbol like a soda can. Yeah? It's a different thing. I'm running through the slides. Do I have the old school stuff? Yeah. You're in the middle of a change. Industry is changing, software is changing. Yeah. Everything is online. Do you need to care about the geodatabase online? Yeah, it's called a server. It's somewhere. Yeah. But for local stuff, also here in class, we need to, and your work and your projects, we got to deal with the idea of everyone needs to have their own little bucket. Huh? Means we're going to have a very poor attempt to get our very poor data management a little bit more structured. Woody's like, okay, what does he mean with that? Meaning, we're going to do a mixed method approach. The best way to survive this class is to know how to throw things into a bucket and stick with it and keep throwing things into the bucket. Why? Because if we do exercises and you look at stuff in the bucket, you're safe. It's all there. If you're looking, let's say, for your baseball team inside the baseball stadium, you're okay. If you're missing your pitcher, a pitcher should be in a baseball stadium. Shouldn't be not on the parking lot, because the parking lot is not our baseball bucket. Okay? I try to make this amusing with this baseball and the football stadium based on my Cincinnati times, because they're right next to each other. Here it's a little bit different. But again, if you keep things in the same place, I don't really care at this moment how organized we are in that place. It's challenging enough maybe for one or two in this class to make sure that everything goes in that place. Yeah? So we're going to do that. We're going to keep it fairly simple. Baby steps. Because we're not going to run a marathon. We're going to start walking. All right. The whole thing I call is file geodatabases. Well, they call it file geodatabases because when they came up with geodatabases. It was sitting on a big server, and then they came up with the idea, well, we can package this in different buckets, and one type of bucket was file-based. Yeah? A different concept. Don't have to explain it. A different ways of concepts. Think about that. If you're into barbecuing, there are different ways and cuts of meat you can serve on a barbecue. Yeah? Everything too complicated. We're not even going into the different marinades and different food styles and cultural food. That sirloin piece, you can do that in different ways. Right now, it's just red meat. That's the only thing we care. All the buckets and the red meat. All right. Simple overview where we're at right now. We are dealing with this. We are dealing here with spatial data, dealing with file geodatabases. Hey, look, digitizing is part of that. Geocoding is part of that. Geoprocessing, oh cool, we get there. Okay? Tables. When we talk about databases, we need to talk about tables. Yes, in theory, a spreadsheet in Excel is probably the most closest you came in terms of a table. It's somewhat a table, but it's not a table. Our tables are attribute tables that are associated with, let's say, the point on your shapefile or layer. Data table in geocodes could be, let's say, you add a table to your ArcGIS Pro. This sounds really confusing right now. When we do this, you need to do three things. Find the location, identify the table, and right-click Add to the map. So the theory is way too complicated right now than actually the practical applied way. Yeah? The census data is also too complicated. Keep that in mind. Two type of tables. Yeah? Data table I plug in from the outside. For geocoding, this is the Excel spreadsheet, or could be a comma-separated file, CSV file, I find somewhere else. The census example is just too complicated. Let's keep it simple with the address table. There are two different ways of address tables. We're using one today. And then we're moving the Excel spreadsheet as a table and generate what we call a feature class, aka put points on a map, and then we have a table in our database saying this point has this address and these other features associated with it. Okay? Gesundheit. Again, today's workflow is we're taking a regular data table, run it through a geocode engine to know where 100 Main Street is located, and then know exactly what is on 100 Main Street associated through our so-called attribute table. It's kind of funny because I probably do not pronunciate attribute table the right way, but it's attribute table. But it's the idea. Here, two different types. This is a text file I can download or can give you guys. Name, comma, address, comma, age. It's a comma separated file. Why? Because you translate into name, address, and age as so-called headers if you would plug that in, let's say, into Excel spreadsheets. Yeah? Because the comma separates each column in this case. Could be semicolons, could be anything else. Comma separated files, CSVs are like a standard. If everything breaks with your data conversion in import, export, you go back to comma separated files. That's the purest simplified data format a student should know.
How would it separate the names?
Here, see that? Name, comma, address, comma, age. Gives you three fields. The next line is the text entry, comma, the street entry, comma, and the age.
The comma between the names, between Jones and Bill, doesn't.
That's the reason why you have it here in quotation marks.
Oh, I see.
You just found out a very bad trick. If I don't make sure that my format, the way I write these values is the right way, I get tricked. If you don't have in this example here, Jones, comma, Bill, quotation marks, it will think Jones is the name, Bill is the address, and the age is 123 Oak Street, comma, error. Can't read that. You're telling me I read, first line tells me I'm looking for 3 fields. Sorry, 3 fields. And you're feeding me because of the missing quotation mark, you're feeding me 4. Eek. How would I know that? I'm a stupid computer. You need to train me how to understand this. And the way you train me is you tell me, well, if I send you something in quotation marks or single quotes, depending on the system, it will be a whole set, not just a single name. Good call. Huh? Line breaker characters, invisible has a value spread with delimiters or often a comma. Data value is going to import it. I am not going to demonstrate CSVs today. And it's not part of the midterm. The midterm is going to be an Excel spreadsheet. Today's training is on an Excel spreadsheet. So if I don't train you on something else, I'm not going to be able to test it. It's my promise and my dedication. Huh? Simple Excel spreadsheet. And I will test it. Today we're going to have 2 tights and a few null matches. If I test that in the midterm, you will get 100% hits, 100% matches. Because the last thing you want to do is freak out, ooh, I only get 95%. Unless it's on purpose, you will see that. I promise you it will be 100%. That's at least the plan. I have to write it tomorrow night. All right? Same thing here, external table data formats. DBase. Alright, DBase was back old school, was limited. Yeah? And you see the evolution of data management with the evolution of technology. I'm so old, I remember a 8.3 system, MS-DOS. Names could not be longer than 8 characters, and extensions could be not longer than 3 characters. Look, the modern Excel is 4. I'm that old, I remember hard disks as big as massive books. Thousands of dollars worth. 124 megabyte hard disk for like $600-700 when it was mainstream. For $600-700 you're buying what, 20 gig right now, 10 gig? Different changes. I'm that old, keep that going on, where if you would be the county administration, the length of your field name and store is determined. Today we don't care if your name field is 50 characters or 255. Back then, every length of a field was money worth in storage. Think about that. Back then, today you're paying a parking spot by the hour for the spot. Think about that. By then, you would be charged by the foot, by the length of the car, not just the duration. You're doing this in shipping. If you own a sailboat, you pay the wet slip for your sailboat by the length of the boat and by the width. If you use a catamaran, you're a little bit more expensive because you're wider. Yeah? So that is kind of obsolete. Where is this coming again is if you deal with cloud services, Amazon Cloud and all these guys, where they charge you by the gigabytes of storage and then maybe the usage and the amount of usage. If you're very careful, the amount of usage sounds like your data plan for your cell phone. Yeah? Cell phone carriers are putting up on that and saying, hey, you actually have a data limit. Even your Xfinity Comcast account for your home has a data limit. If you get your internet there, you might want to check that. Yeah,
You have speed, high speed, but at the end of the day, on your online web page, it says this is the maximum amount of data you get in gigabytes per month for streaming, etc. You have been streaming this amount yet. And then they put barriers into the game. They might reduce your speed and all that. So, same thing here. Databases grew in size and in speed and in the management. The reason why there is a DBase format still on there, it's because it's fairly generic and robust. And you can get old data, if you might not be able to open everything, but you might be able to get the old data table as the DBase format and do some shenanigans with it in your GIS. Data presented today is in DBF and in Excel format. Just to show you how easy it is like, hey, there's an Excel spreadsheet. You could, in theory, manipulate all the data in Excel and just double-click on it in GIS and it's boom, on the map. Mind-blowing, super easy, lots of theory behind it. All right. Microsoft Access database, that's kind of an old school thing, but you can see 2 GB in file size. You have readings that are bigger than that as PDF formats.
Is that still like brand new Microsoft Access is still the same way?
No, they changed a lot of things, but like 10, 15 years ago, when the non-enterprise geodatabase came out, or the concept of that, where you could say, hey, on a laptop you could implement that, or a small personal computer could implement that. A database is faster than the old shapefile system. There's another system prior to that, but shapefiles used actually DBFs as database. So with the Microsoft Access, using a standard way of running databases and making that spatially, that helped a lot. Was also great because you could open up the back door and you could write code inside a database that would reflect your work on GIS. And they shut that down a little bit. There's also the idea of open data and open concepts and data concepts. I don't teach that because there's so many backdoors. I love Python, but Python is a must if you want to do extensive GIS work. SQL language, structured query language is a must. But I spend hours and days to install different Python installations for different purposes. I install one REE, get the standard.
What's that, Python and what?
SQL, SQL. All right, primary keys. We don't care right now. I would say everything below 1,000, don't worry about it. Everything that goes into 30,000 and higher, and you want to do extensive data search, like sort by name, street, etc. Angelo's like, You might want to do primary keys and additional indexes and all that. If you're interested in that, we can do that some other time. Not part of the lecture. Yeah? Geocodes, short reflection. There's another way to put my data on a map. I can digitize, I can geocode, or if someone gives you a table that has something already like lat long inside, remember we talked about map transformation and degrees? Look at that map here. Lat long. Lat long. Similar pattern we had earlier in the displays. That means that's somewhat my XY. If I have a map projection that deals with lat long, I can tell the table, why don't you just use those XY XY coordinates and get drawn on the map. Fundamental issue. Displaying XY data does not create a new layer for you, a physical layer. You need to save that as a physical layer in the next step. It's great to do a display, and I refer to that as a display XY event, not add XY event, just display. And then you have to save that displayed data as a new map layer. So whenever it comes to XY data, gotta keep that second step in mind. You actually need to save that stuff. if you geocode, it will ask you for a output location. It will actually do a physical result for you. Runs all the addresses through the little black box and creates that physical file or feature class for you. The physical location saved to be used in the map and displayed. XY is adding it to the map as a display you, as the user, must save. Or next time you open a project, you're like, what happened? Where are all my data points? Cool example for XY data. Don't know if they lost it now because they changed a few of the governmental data pages. Go to the EPA webpage. Instead of doing the exercise in the book, go to the EPA webpage and take a look at TRI data. Toxic Release Information data. So what you get is, you get the name of a company, you get the date of the release, you get the lat long coordinate and the type of release. Of what kind of chemical stuff just got spilled somewhere or blew up. And you can put that in an easy way just on the map with XY data. You can do that for all the United States. TRI. Toxic Release Information. Used to be at the EPA data webpage. If not, I will find an old example, probably in Idaho for you guys. It's a different way to play with this.
This will be real time, or is it like a story?
Oh, that's as they report it. You can simulate real time with XY events. That's the cool part. If you have a data table, tech question. If you have a map XY table, a table with XY, and you have the XY event pointing here, and you have something else changing your data table. If you change the XY in your data table and it's currently displayed here, your refresh is going to change that. I wrote software for the very first mobile tracking for fire trucks. The physical location of the fire truck on a not internet connected machine based on that. Basically the icon on the fire truck on the map was an XY event refreshing every 5 seconds.
But you pulled it from what? GPS? Or
Yeah. So somewhere in the system you had an XY and the XY got updated and then it refreshed the map. So super simple stuff, but it's very exciting sometimes. Okay, XY data. Another example, this is actually the step-by-step how you do that. You literally right-click on the table. See down here, public schools. As an example, you literally right-click. You know also what cool is? If this is a table in the proper format, it says display XY data or geocode addresses. So you must know what you have in your table to do one or the other step. I don't have XY data with me today. We won't have the time to find it and put it up. Next week after the midterm. All right. Export as feature class is the important part. Let's do this when we get the time for it. All right, you guys ready? You awake? All right. One thing you need to do. Well, we have been logging in here for business analysts. We can actually close this. We can close the report. We can close the map if we want to. One thing we need to do is download our data. Data we're using today for the exercise. All right. Let's go to Canvas. Log into Canvas. Warning. My screen will look different than yours.